This is Overtime with Matty.
And welcome back to the latest edition of our podcast here with Overtime with Matty as part of the 531 PI Pacific Media Network Group and our Pacific Grandstand show. We're going to chop it up a little bit about some rugby union, some big news, in particular Super Rugby Final last week. But before we get into that, how you been, Matty? How's your week?
Yeah, been good. Been busy. Busy week in the weekend of sports. The Warriors, terrible loss at the weekend. Just to watch it, I turned it off midway through the game when it was already, I think it was 32-0 at halftime, and I just didn't want to bar of it. And I saw 66-6 at the end of the game, and then I just went to sleep. I was angry. But, we go again. Always the Warriors. That's why I wore my Warriors hat this morning. We're without a guest today, so the beautiful viewers are going to see our beautiful faces front up for this episode of the podcast. So we go again. You've been well, bro?
Well, good luck to some of those viewers looking at my mic. Been busy, busy. It's always nice to have plenty on your plate and keep yourself busy. And that's been the case this week, as is the case with most weeks. With the world of sport, there's always a lot going on. Yeah. But as I said, we'll kick off the show with the Super Rugby Final.
Oh, wow.
Big game at Eden Park last Saturday.
Yep.
In the driving rain, which was supposed to be a tester and a bit of a leveller, but that wasn't the case at all. And the Blues dominant in victory, 41-10 over the Chiefs, who never really got going. Both teams, their form coming into this suggested that this was going to be a classic, and everyone saw it that way. The Chiefs, big winners in their quarterfinal against the Reds, 43-21, and then beating the Hurricanes surprisingly because of how good the Hurricanes were going, and for them to win 30-19 set the platform for everyone's expectation of it to be a classic. They were coming in on some really good form. And the Blues, however, they were dominant against the Drua, 36-5, and then beating the Brumbies 34-20, where they didn't really get going. They were physical, which they have been all year, and they never really got out of fourth gear. They were cruising, and you could see that they had another gear to go up to, but they didn't test themselves or have to, but got to the final nonetheless. But geez, didn't they turn it on the weekend? Yeah,
it was a huge win for the Blues. We spoke about it earlier, but the Chiefs are one of those sides that would be dangerous come in the back end of the season when they found their form, and that's what they did. Coming in against the Hurricanes, no one really gave them a shot. No one really gave them a shot to topple the Hurricanes. People in the staff, were asking who was our choice, and both of us, you and I, Willie, chose the Chiefs to topple the Hurricanes, and it was just a huge win for them. But unfortunately, they were met with a firing Blue squad who were just too good on the night. It looked like a huge mismatch, bro. And the opening exchanges, there was some back and forth. There was some tackle breaks from the Chiefs side, and then in those opening 5 minutes, they're really crucial in these big games. But as time went on and the rain started to belt down on Eden Park, the Blues just looked more comfortable and more clinical at each play, and just seeing the rain. I think earlier in that day, bro, we were filming our show on Saturday, and it was a nice day. And then the rain comes out of nowhere. And it sort of took me back a couple of years when the Blues faced the Crusaders at Eden Park in the grand final. And then even that night it was raining too. And the Blues were stopped in their tracks just playing that wet weather footy, but it looks like they learnt from that experience, and they were able to come back and do some great things. Caleb Clark, hat-trick. We spoke about him earlier in the year and how important his form has been for the Blues, his resurgence, I should say. Coming in at a lot lighter, he looked a lot fitter, he looked a lot quicker, and that power never left him either. So it was just good to see him on the front foot. The Battle of the Eights, as we talked about last week with Neweli, Sititi and Sotutu, that was also a great thing to watch. Just seeing two big number 8 Tua Pacifica, go at it. It was just awesome to see.
Damian McKenzie was outstanding against the Hurricanes last weekend, and he was kicking them from all over the place, had the ball on a string, was setting up all the plays, and not pointing them out in particular. But do you think the Chiefs may have played their final a week before?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, when teams like those play in the semi-finals, they usually play their best footy, or sometimes they play their best footy because come the grand final day, they just sort of go missing. And we saw that, for an example, in the 2019 Rugby World Cup when, was it 2019? 2023, last year's World Cup, when the All Blacks played Ireland in the quarterfinals, and then so that was pretty much like a World Cup final. So come in the grand final, and they just couldn't get things done on the front against the Springboks. So sometimes that's the case when players or teams come up in these semi-final games where they're facing a bigger opponent, as such, the Hurricanes and the Chiefs. And we saw the Chiefs everything was going right for them against the Hurricanes, but coming up against the Blues, they just looked flat.
Do you think the Blues played the conditions better?
I think so.
To really play it tight, keep it tight. Even Caleb Clark was getting the ball tight. Having Patrick Tuipulotu back, who was outstanding on the back of his knee injury.
Yeah.
Good for the All Blacks as well, which we'll get to a little bit later. But do you think there was a big difference? They played the game in the right way because of the conditions, or do you think that was pre-planned by Vern Cotter?
Yeah, I think Vern Cotter is very meticulous in the way that he plans out these types of games. And for the Blues, we talked about their power and we talked about their structure throughout the whole year and how powerful they have been against those top teams, and it looked the same when they came up against the Chiefs. I remember the first scrum that happened in that match, and everyone was wondering how it's going to go because these two big forward packs were going at it, and the Blues still look strong, despite those collapsing too. I still don't quite understand these bloody rugby union scrums, bro, but despite it collapsing, I thought that was the teller. And they just played the conditions a lot better. Like you said, they played a lot tighter. They were intentional with their pass selections, their kick selections as well, and also close to the line. They were just kept hammering at the Chiefs' defensive line when they came into that red zone, and the Blues just played it a lot better. I feel like the Chiefs just couldn't find their feet on the go forward against the defensive line from the Blues. So it was they just couldn't find a way through. Yeah, what about your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought they got going out of the blocks too quick, and before they knew it, they were under an immense amount of scoreboard pressure. Even with the Blues up at 17, the momentum was going their way.
Yeah.
And they just kept mounting and mounting, and the pressure just got too much. Samisoni Tokiaho, big loss.
Yeah.
Big
Huge loss, bro. Yeah.
For his presence, but for his loss for the Chiefs being out there, and he gives them their pack, that starch with him without the ball. He's wonderful with the ball in hand, but he's strong defensively. So low his centre of gravity, and he punches through ball carriers with his tackles, and I thought he was a loss for them. But the Blues had to play what was in front of them, and they did it very, very well, and they dominated pretty much every area in the game. They had 67% of possession.
Wow.
They had 513 metres gained compared to the Chiefs' 256. The Blues had 153 carries to the Chiefs' 78.
Yeah.
So it's reminiscent of a game that was played through the week in Melbourne.
Yeah.
They had all the ball, they had all the field position. They were that dominant.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, in turn, had to make 215 tackles to the Blues' 82.
Wow.
Those numbers alone
Yeah.
suggest that it's too much of a mountain to climb. Anybody gets those sort of numbers against an opposition, it's going to be hard to win the game, let alone playing the quality of the Blues and playing in a game of the magnitude of a final.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Willie. When a team, or if you're on that team that seems to be defending a lot more, and the attacking line just keeps hammering that defensive line, as a coach or as a player, what are you telling yourself, and what are you trying to relay to the boys to stay on it? Because that is a huge, disparity between how much tackles they've made compared to the Blues, who are obviously just firing on the day.
Yeah, well, you've got to somehow get the ball back in your hands. Defensively, whether it's rugby league, rugby union, or whether it's football or basketball, whatever, defense is the most tiring. It's the most energy-sapping part of the game.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be having to do it too long, especially in contact sports, against bigger athletes, bigger, powerful, fast athletes who are coming at you, and you're having to tackle after tackle, and you're tackling on the back foot, and you're conceding field position. You got to, at some point, try and rescue possession back under your control. And once you do, and rugby union confuses me sometimes, when you're in that position, I just feel like you've got to hold the ball as long as you can rather than kick it away and put yourself under defensive pressure. Again, I get it if it's you get a long kick away and you're trying to keep the team and turn them around. But regardless of either side, you don't want to be tackling for long periods. It's too draining
Sucks
for
the
you.
energy out of them, man.
Massively. And whilst it might not be counting immediately, and by that I mean whilst you might not be conceding tackles over a short period of time that you're having to defend, but it's draining over the course of a game.
Yeah.
It drains your energy and it can take it out of you, and you become heavy-legged.
Yep.
And if at some point it's going to take a toll on you, especially as I said, in a big game like that against a quality team like the Blues, who were buoyed for so many reasons, having their captain back, Patrick Tuipulotu,
unreal,
out for the rest of the season 2 weeks ago after he got injured.
Miraculously.
Turns up on Monday, says to the doctor, I've woken up feeling pretty good this week. I feel good today. Please test me out. If I'm good to go and I've no symptoms of no pain, I want to play, which is the case. And I thought they were playing a little bit of silly buggers and playing some mind games to start with, but it turns out he was fine.
He went out and he fired.
Because there's no way they would have left him out of the semi-final on purpose. So that's where I thought the knee injury had to be genuine.
Yeah.
But for him to come out and play like that and then say, I'm good to go for the All Blacks, man, what a recovery, what a boost, and what a confidence booster for his teammates.
Yeah, definitely. Just I'd assume for the Blues squad going in that would be a great, encouragement just to see their skipper overcome in miraculous fashion, overcome this injury to come and put his hand up to play in a Super Rugby final, to have the opportunity. He's been a part of the Blues for so long, and the opportunity to win a championship is right there. And I and a lot of other athletes would know that they would love to have that chance, whether when you feel like you're down and out, and you want to put your hand up and play in those big games, whether the reward is higher than the risk, then I think that his decision to come in and play that grand final was just huge boost for the Blues and a huge boost for the 09. Congratulations.
One more on the Blues. Part of their motivation, and a big part of their motivation for this game, was the departure and Akira Ioane leaving the side.
Yeah.
Been around 7-8 years around the Blues, been of great service to the game here in New Zealand, not only to the Blues, but to the Auckland NPC side as well. Tell me a little bit, just quickly, give me an explanation of some of the importance that he's played and what legacy he leaves.
Yeah, he leaves a huge legacy. I think, like you said, 9-10 years with the Auckland Rugby, of service to Auckland Rugby. He has been a quiet achiever. He's not a big talker. He's not a big person in the media, but he'll go out and do his job. He dipped in and out of form over the past 5 years, but, he's still one of those integral players for the Blues and for Auckland Rugby. He's had stints in the All Blacks and the Māori All Blacks too, which he has been really well playing in the 6, 7, or 8 positions. Wherever they choose to put him, he's strong, he's powerful, he's quick as well. I remember when he was playing in the sevens, bro, and he was just running, bowling people over. I'd watch his highlights there and just buzz out like, this guy's bowling over everyone, and he'd come back and play for the Blues and do really well. But I think that it's a great opportunity for him to head over to Japan, to put him and his family first in this time of his career, to go earn some money, after a long service. But it was a long service for Auckland Rugby, but it was just huge to see them go out with a win. I saw Rieko Ioane and Akira Ioane after the game, they took a photo with the Super Rugby trophy, and that's all you want, man. That's like such a huge moment. You've seen the Barrett brothers do it for so long, be in the All Blacks together, win championships in that together, but for them to do that with the Blues, I thought that it was huge. And to see two of our Pasifika boys especially, bow out after such long years of service through the club, I thought that was great.
A big thank you to Akira for all his service here, and we wish him all the very best on his journey to Japan. And congratulations to him and all the Blues on a fantastic victory and picking up the 2024 Super Rugby Pacific Trophy. Well, after the game, after the Blues played on Monday afternoon, Razor Scott Robertson named his very first All Black squad as All Black coach. That came out on Monday afternoon. As usual, there's one or two surprises. A couple of debutants, some awesome phone calls, I presume, for Razor to have made to a couple of players, 5 in particular. We'll speak about them soon. But one big surprise to many was the omission of Hoskins Sotutu.
Yeah.
12 tries, the most tries by anybody in Super Rugby this year. Most by a forward, most by a back, 12 tries, been in outstanding form. We spoke about this last week.
Yep.
I'll go back to the first game of the season where he was dominant against the Drua in Whangarei.
Yeah, man.
He's repeated that effort week in and week out.
Yep.
And I thought, whilst he has moments where the game can drift him by, his impact when he's needed has been second to none this year.
Yeah. I think so too.
Curious omission for you?
Yeah, I thought that it was quite surprising to not see his name there. After it was a no-brainer. Just to have him in the All Black squad. He's one of the best players, if not the best player that has laced up the boots for Super Rugby in 2024. He elevated his game this year alone. In the Super Rugby season, and that's. Just it didn't make sense for me. I don't know what Scott Robertson's trying to do. With the omission of Hoskins Sotutu, going with other players in that number 8 jersey. But I think that it was just quite strange for me. There's people calling him, calling him to go play for Fiji instead, or going elsewhere. People were saying that won't be surprised if he heads overseas to Europe or Japan to go have a stint over there, because just not being picked when you've had the best season of your life can be quite demoralising for a player of his stature and for a player like him, who has been great throughout the season. I thought that it was just quite strange to not see him in the jersey. I saw his Blues teammates get behind him and back him. He did a post and on Instagram, addressing that what happened, not in depth, but he just made a little comment as well that some of the boys got behind. There were rumours that said that he had to go off to have some surgery after the game. But those rumours clearly aren't true. So people were trying to figure out how he was left out of the squad, and I'm still putting my finger on it. But in saying that, that's the first squad of this year. He can come back into the squad later in the year, but I also sort of think in the later test, but I also sort of think, how would that feel for a player who has had a great season, had probably their best season of their career? They won a Super Rugby Grand Final, and the next 2 days they don't get named for the All Black squad, but then they want to ask you to come back in later in the year. I think that'll be huge on his decision.
And if he is asked to come back into the squad at a later point, I'm sure he'll put his hand up.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody that's ever turned down an opportunity to do that. So whilst there'll be disappointment and a bit of heartache, and he'll have all sorts of things in his ears and people coming in, he's just got to get some clarity in his head.
Yep.
All right, have a think about it. I think if he is called upon through injury or otherwise, and Razor wants him back in, I'm sure he'll answer the call for New Zealand. In his place, though, was one of the debutants, the number 8 for the Chiefs, young Wallace Satiti.
Man, well done. He had a great game in the grand final as well, and he's had a great season too. He's I looked at some of the stats between him and Hoskins throughout in that breakdown of the grand final, and they were sort of similar for them both throughout the season. But yeah, he's an outstanding youngster who I think he's only 21 years of age, and he's going to be a young bolter. But if he gets that experience early, which Hoskins Sotutu got as well, when he first was named in the All Blacks Cup, 3 or 4 years ago. once he gets this world-class experience and that environment under his belt, young CTT, I think it'll do him, wonders when he goes back to clubland. But I thought that was really cool, just to see CTT get the nod as a youngster too.
Yeah, former De La Salle student.
Yeah.
His dad was a former Manu Samoa number 8 captain.
Great.
In Samoa, and a great servant to the game. So he comes from good stock.
Royalty, man.
The other debutants, George Bell, the hooker from Crusaders. Pase Leotusi, tight head from the Hurricanes. Big man.
Good on him, man.
Big bolter.
Yeah.
Probably a big shock, but well-deserved. Cortez Ratama, halfback from the Chiefs.
Yeah.
A lot of people were talking about him being in the mix.
Yeah.
And Billy Proctor, the midfielder from the Hurricanes. One I'm glad to see back, and we've spoken about this since he's been back in, and since Cam Roigard's injury. TJ Perenara, he's back.
Man.
He gets a chance to add to his 80 tests, as I searched out.
Man, 80 tests. There was I saw a video online of him reacting to his All Black selection, and he said that there was a time that he thought he was never going to play rugby again. But this guy returned this year in 2024 for the Hurricanes, had an outstanding season. I think he broke the Super Rugby scoring record as well. He was hand in hand with Julian Salvia, but I think he edged him towards the end of the season.
Well, he broke it and he stretched it.
Yeah, man.
Kept scoring.
Man, good on him. And I think that it's just great to have that type of experience back into the All Black side. He was top and tail with Aaron Smith for so many years, but now he gets his chance as the senior halfback, to go into this All Black side and do some great things. He had a stint over in the Māori All Blacks for a little bit, and now he comes back into the top side for the All Blacks, and gets to represent his family, his city, and his culture as well again. So congratulations to him, man. He's done a great job.
So representation in the squad, franchise-wise,
Yep.
Highlanders, they have 1.
Wow.
Ethan de Groot.
Yeah.
The Crusaders have 7. Canes have 7. Chiefs have 8. And the Blues have 9.
Man.
Is that a fair spread?
Yeah, that's a fair spread. Yeah, I think all teams have been, all the players that have been named for the squad, they've all had great seasons. No New Zealand Rugby Union team or Super Rugby team has had a bad season. Maybe the Highlanders a little bit, but yeah, I think that those are, and the Crusaders obviously, but I think that those are quite some good inclusions. I feel like there should have been a couple more Blues players than Crusaders players, maybe that could be arguable, but yeah, I think it's a good spread.
Any names in particular?
I still think Hoskins should have got the nod, man. But yeah, what do you think about Pero Feta? Do you think, because he had some injury stint throughout the year, but do you think that in the latter ends he could have stolen a spot?
Yeah,
in the wider squad for the All Blacks.
He's got versatility.
Yeah,
he's great versatility.
Exactly.
Filled in well at fullback when Zahn Sullivan got injured.
Yep.
Did a really good job. Started the season very well at 10. So. Yeah, I think he's growing better and better each and every year.
Yeah.
And it's a tough one. That 10 position for the All Blacks, man, that's a big position. But Bowden's there as well. Yep. And so I think we're still in good hands with Richie Mo'unga moving on.
Yeah.
Razor's decided to pick his captain.
Yep.
He's gone with Scott Barrett. Scott Barrett from the Crusaders, who he obviously has had a long relationship with, being a former Crusaders coach. He's gone with someone who he knows intimately, obviously has the trust.
Yep.
But the big talking point, as we spoke on this show last week, and we've spoken on our Pacific Grandstand and Overtime shows, our thoughts were with Ardie Savea, that he should have got there. What are your thoughts now that he has named the captain to be?
Man, I think it was surprising when I looked at the squad and I didn't see the C letter next to Ardie Savea's name. It was quite, he's a vice captain. He shares it with Geordie Barrett, I think. But yeah, I thought that it was quite strange for him to not be picked as the All Blacks captain. This is a stepping off point with Ian Foster leaving, Sam Cane leaving. This is another stepping off point where the All Blacks have a decision and opportunity to pick their leader for going forward for the next 5 6-7 years. And I think, and many other people would have thought that Ari Savea would have fit that helm. But not unfortunately, but I feel like Scott Barrett is a good leader on the field too. He's led the Crusaders really well over the years, as one of the leaders, behind such a high quality squad for the Crusaders who have won many championships in the past. But yeah, I think Ari Savea definitely deserved the nod. He stepped in so many times in the past couple of years as on-field captain and as captain in the absence of Sam Cane, and I thought that he'd done a great job. But we spoke about it so much, bro, that the captaincy, or the All Blacks captaincy, is such a sacred covenant. It's someone that embodies all these different qualities, on field, off field, the best, arguably the best player on the field for the All Blacks, and but also can handle himself and with poise and elegance off the field too, and on the field as well. And I think that Ari Savea really embodies that. But who knows? In our Pacific culture, we don't always have to have labels for us to in order to determine our stature and our ability to lead. And I think that's something that he'll really value as a leader, behind the scenes as a vice captain, and he'll take that on very, very good.
Yeah, and I second what you're saying, that all the qualities required to be the All Black captain.
Yeah.
And Scott Barrett has those.
Yeah.
Scott Barrett also has a lot of those leadership and those qualities of mana and presence on the field and ability on the field. For mine, Richie McCaw is the benchmark for the Auckland All Black captain. Yeah. There's two, Richie McCaw and Buck Shelford. They were the benchmarks of what an All Black captain is for me. Yeah. One was rugged and tough and led from the front, as was the other, but the other was fit, fast, live clean, do everything right off the field, be the best at everything, and compete at every single facet of the play. I just believe Artie's got more of that.
Yeah.
Artie's got some Richie McCaw about him.
Yeah.
And I thought he could have brought that to the side. What he also has is not just the respect from the other countries, but an element of fear.
It does, bro.
They've got the other countries that come up against him. Yeah. They know how dangerous he is. They know what he can bring. Yeah. And you watch the All Blacks play when Richie McCaw was playing. Yep. He was the one they all spoke about. And then they spoke about how he used to cheat at the breakdown and how he knew every little trick, but he was everywhere. Yeah. He was a fighter. He was a leader, and more importantly, as the captain, he made everybody else on the side, their shoulders stand up. Yeah. They stood next to him and said, "That's our leader, we're going to follow you." I hope they do that for Scott Barrett. I really do. And it was great that Artie came out this week and threw all his support behind Scott Barrett. And again, that's a great quality of a wonderful leader to do that. So I hope that they do get that support network. You spoke about Geordie Barrett being the other vice captain and that being the leadership group. Go back to TJ Perenara. He's another one. Yep. He's another one who has got the experience, the quality around the group, 80-odd tests. He's got all the experience in the world. He'll be another voice, I'm sure, that they'll lean to. And with a lot of the coaching staff new to this environment, new to the international level, it'll be a big test for them come up against the English and who they play next Saturday, the 6th of July. They play them down at Forsyth Bar in Dunedin, and then they're back on the 13th at Eden Park for the second test. So that'll be a big test, a big way for Razor to start his tenure as All Black coach.
Huge.
During the week, big game, mate, big game in Melbourne. We've shifted to rugby league now.
Yes.
A bit of disappointment here in the room. There's a few sulky Maroons, myself included.
Me too, myself included as well, man.
But we bore the brunt of it. We can't have it all. The Blues winning 38-18 against our Queenslanders in Melbourne on Wednesday night. Dominant. As dominant, you heard the commentators say it, the most dominant first half of football by any team in Origin history. Going in 34-0, it was just a performance almost to perfection for the Blues.
Yeah, it was great. I was Although I'm a Maroon supporter, I was so happy to see the likes of Dylan Edwards get have a great performance from the Panthers. Latrell Mitchell come back in there, inject Mitchell Moses, who did a really great job too in steering the ship, and his kicking game, like we talked about before, was so clinical and crucial for the Blues. And I thought that even when Spencer Lanier came on and injected some of that mongrel and some of that heart into the Blues go forward, I thought that it was great to see. Not me being a Maroon supporter, I'm like, great to see some challenge to our Maroons, some effort from the Blues.
Get sick of winning,
sick of winning, have to let these guys get up and get off the ground. But it was good to see some definite fight back from the Blues to come back. It was reminiscent of 2021 when the Blues smoked the Maroons back then in 2020 and 2021, and they had a highlight squad as well. Latrell Mitchell was in both of those teams as well. But what type of quality football that the Blues can play when they have the right people in the right positions. Now, I thought Dylan Edwards was a great linking to the halves and to the Blues go forward, especially breaking up the Maroons' defence in those little gaps, in those little pockets, and his kick returns are really crucial as well. Jerome Luai's short kicks and his grubbers through on that left edge just would always find Mitchell or To'o, on those sides. Lomax did a great job on the right side. That try when he jumped over Nana, was it Nana or Coates? On the right edge.
Murray
Talangi, I'm sorry. And he jumped over him, caught the ball, and scored a try. He did the same too when he played the Warriors as well. But yeah, it was unreal to see the Blues have such a dominant performance at the start. Payne Haas had a really great job, steering the troops. But I thought for the Maroons, I felt like they targeted Daly Cherry Evans in that game. You could see a lot of those players, really rough him up in the tackle, tackle him in the air, and really put him off his game, which you could see he started to get ready, started to get a little bit frustrated. With DCE's on his best day, on a great game, he's kicking well, he's running well, he's tackling well, but we just saw him a little bit frustrated last night.
I spoke about Latrell a couple of weeks ago on another show about how when he's playing happy and he's smiling when he's playing, he's so dangerous.
Yeah.
He's such a dangerous beast. And that was the case last night.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, he spoke before the game about how he had thoughts of walking away and all the pressure, and how he feels some hatred from some quarters to him. He's very outspoken as a character. He wears his heart on his sleeve, which anybody that does that, you've got to respect him for it. And he uses his platform to speak his mind.
Yeah.
But that sports some people who think that he should be quiet and just concentrate on footy. But last night he seemed to put all that behind him, and he's been doing that for South Sydney.
Yeah.
How dangerous is he going to be in Game 3, and how dangerous is he going to be for South Sydney trying to make a run?
He was the game changer for me, for the Blues. I think that, you spoke about it with the All Blacks, when a player can lift the shoulders of those around him. And I think that's what he really did coming into that side. Latrell Mitchell he's been a part of that Blues since, I think, 2018. And since then, he's just been a terror for the Blues, an X-factor type player. He can break tackles in short amounts of space, but he can, in open space, he can do really well as well. And I thought that he showed last night just how much he means, or how good of a quality player he can be when he's around the right people, around the right system, but also has the right attitude to go into the game and do really well. Now, I thought he had one or two penalties go against him, in the game, but I think that his style of play and the way that he plays is exactly what the Blues need to go for a good run at toppling the Maroons when they go up to Suncorp. But I think that'll be really interesting just to see what happens in that Game 3 and how the Maroons respond from here. Who is going to defend Latrell on that right edge for the Maroons, because I think that they didn't really do a great job.
One word answer, and this is probably more so for South Sydney.
Yep.
For Latrell, fullback or centre?
Centre. I think he could go centre. Maybe you can slot Johnston back in the fullback, but I think that he looks a lot more comfortable in centre. He doesn't have to do much. You can see his his effort sort of wane off when he has to do a lot of running at the fullback position. But at centre, if he's tucked away on that left edge again for the Rabbitohs, I think he can do great.
That's the longest one-word answer.
Journalist type answer, man. Jeez.
Mitchell Moses, really, really good on his return
Yeah.
For the Blues last night. I said to someone this morning that on that performance, he solidified himself as the New South Wales halfback.
Yeah.
But then, of course, I started to think Nathan Cleary's going to come back.
Bro. Yeah.
You know, it's unfortunate for someone like Mitchell Moses, but it's a bit like when Daly Cherry Evans used to step in for Cooper Cronk. He was always fantastic, but Cooper Cronk was always the man.
Yeah.
He was always the man, but whenever Cooper Cronk was injured or not there or Thurston was injured, DCE, they've got a fantastic backup now.
Yeah.
I think that answers their question. That's their triangle of halves. Moses, Luai and Cleary.
If Cleary comes back and he retakes that number 7 jersey, or comes back into the halves, do you think they put Moses at 14?
Possibly. Possibly. I don't know if he's ever really played anywhere else but the halves. He's not the Ben Hunt type player to throw him in at hooker.
Yeah.
You know, whilst he defended really well, he defended on the front foot.
Yeah.
He had, and this is what halfbacks need to do sometimes. They need to get on the front foot and get in the faces of the ball carrier, whereas Ben Hunt, he had Payne Haas coming at him and he just stood up and made the tackles.
Yeah.
He's that type of defender. I'm not sure if Mitchell Moses at 14 has the ability or the strength to do that.
Yeah.
That's a different one. I did think Connor Watson was very good as the 14 when he came on late in the game. Early barbs during the week with Michael Maguire talking about glass houses and having a crack at Queensland. Do you think that played a part in some of the mindset and how they approached the game, Queensland? Or was there an air of complacency that they were 1-0 ahead?
Yeah. Well, I think there was a little bit of that era of complacency. Although Queensland, you know, I look at it, you know, as a neutral fan, but they will always back their Queensland spirit and their humbleness and their determination to go out and play every game. As we will. But you know, I think that there can be some complacency going into game 2 when you already know that you're 1-0 up ahead. It'll be great to sort of come in and get a win. And seal it at 2-0, but I feel like the effort sort of waned off as soon as the Blues started to get their roll on. We heard Billy Slater talk about that snowball effect, and that momentum shift never went back into the way of the Maroons until the second half. So I think that it didn't really play a factor for me, at least. I think it didn't really play a factor. I think they were just really complacent in the way that they handled when they came up against adversity in the game 2.
So a big New South Wales win ties the series at 1-1 with 1 to play. They go back up to Suncorp, or as I still like to call it, Lang Park. That's the cauldron of origin. It's where it was born. It's where it started.
Great stadium.
Parochial crowd.
Yeah.
What do Queensland need to do to improve and get this series tied up?
I think they need to play similar. Maybe front up. We talked about it. Off here. About every time the halves or Reece Walsh at the fullback, they sort of pulled up before the line. They didn't want to run through the line. They just stopped at the line and they didn't have any real intent or any mongrel. It's like the Blues really intimidated them, their go forward. So I think that they need to front up. You're at a home stadium, you're backed by a home crowd. It's Suncorp. It's the home of State of Origin. You need to go there and give it your all and really, like in the rugby league sense, you got to nut up, you got to nut up and be there to handle every tackle and handle, that firing Blues attack that we know that they can do. Latrell Mitchell is going to be one of those game breakers that we need to target in order to shut him down, to break some of that confidence that the Blues were feeling last night in the State of Origin game too. So, I think those are really some of the key things that I think that they need to do, Willie.
Yeah, I thought they started really well. They started physically.
Yep.
I thought Pat Carrigan was immense again.
Great,
he took 2 carries
on
the first set and just kept punching forward. And then for some reason, they got some joy. I won't say some reason. They got some joy early doors going out to the left and getting Reece Walsh out the back. And they made an early break.
Yep.
to Murray Taulagi. And I thought that changed their mindset too much. They started to go a little bit too lateral passing-wise.
Yeah.
There was a moment there where Mo Fotuaika came off the bench
Yep.
and he tips to Dearden and he just gets squashed by Mitchell Moses, and it was a knock-on, rightly so. But they went away from that physical game. Back into the second half, when they started to pile on some points, that's exactly what they did. They started to get that mental mindset to punch through, carry hard, get through defenders, have a mindset to beat the opposition. And I thought that was a tactic that worked better for them. You know, I'm all for it, and I'm an advocate strongly for playing footy and moving the ball around. But Origin's a different beast.
Yeah.
Origin's about physicality. It's such a mental warfare.
Yeah.
And it's about putting your opposition under pressure, which New South Wales put Queensland under too much field position and then eventually scoreboard pressure. But credit to Queensland to come out and answer that and win the second half. It's full credit to them. And I think they'll get a lot of positives out of that second 40 minutes, the takeaways out of that. Did New South Wales take their foot off the pedal? Possibly a little bit. But, again, I'll go back to the keys. Punch the ball hard, find some field position, put New South Wales under an enormous amount of pressure. I think the first half, they may have had one play in Queensland and New South Wales 20, if that. So that's how they get it. You can't pass your way around. Not too early. Billy Slater spoke about it. They had to earn it. They had to earn the right to play, which they weren't doing. You know, as much as we want Reece Walsh in the game, he's got to be playing off the back of some momentum and allow DCE and Dearden and possibly Ezra Mam could come back in.
Yeah, that'll be great.
And add some flash and add some footwork and add some danger with ball in hand. But still excited to go back up to Queensland, back up to Brisbane, face them in our ground, at our warfare, and hopefully we get it done, get another series in the bag. But yeah, congratulations to New South Wales. Fully congrats. They were awesome last night. It's been done before. I've seen this show before. You know, where Queensland have won the first one, New South Wales have come out and totally dominated. As you said, it was a couple of years ago. I think during the COVID time that Queensland won the first one, I think, in Adelaide. New South Wales came out, totally ripped us to bits. And then we got the job done at home with what was called the worst Queensland team ever. So I'm sure this team can get it done. There's a bit of work for Billy Slater and the boys ahead. Patch them up, get them going again, be confident going back out to the home ground, being back in Brizzy and do it all again and get that trophy won. So that brings us to an end of our podcast for this week. Matty, would you like to direct the audience, our viewers and our listeners, to where they can see us and catch our podcast here, Overtime with Matty?
Yeah, you can catch our podcast on Spotify and YouTube, our YouTube channels. You can just go on there and look up Overtime with Matty. You can find all 4 episodes of the latest for Overtime with Matty. It's been another great chat. Willie, thanks for having me again, and look forward to next week's chat when we chop it up some more.
That's it. Thank you very much for joining it. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Overtime with Matty. We'll see you again for next week's episode.
Queenslander!